Damon Maitsu is cool. I haven't made a video on this game for a year and a half, but here we are. Damon Maitsu, the protagonist of Project Eden's Garden, is incredibly unique when compared to protagonists of the Source games, the Danganronpa franchise. Within that game, you've got an insecure guy, another insecure guy, and a third insecure guy. For those who love to feel special, there's a fourth, more obscure, insecure girl too. They've all got some individual traits, I will admit, but once you look at Damon Maitsu, you realize that you're settling for less with the others. He wears a suit. If you're excited, just know that I'm excited for you to press the subscribe button, follow my Spotify artist and YouTube artist profiles of the same name, as well as liking and commenting. You wouldn't want to disappoint an excited guy, right? Damon doesn't. Firstly, we're talking about development. Now, don't misunderstand me. I don't mean that Damon is the only protagonist with development, or that he has none. All 5 have development. Nobody is saying otherwise, I hope. Instead, I'm discussing how special Damon's development is and will be, as well as how subversive it is on top of that. Eden's Garden said they aren't following Danganronpa tropes, and they're doing a pretty banger job so far. Now, I'll present to you why Damon exemplifies this. Firstly, Makoto Naegi's development is about him coming into his own. He's a normal guy surrounded by those who are less normal, unique even. Makoto isn't, just to explain. However, as he continues to be more open and therefore more helpful to the cast as murders happen, especially being close with arguably the smartest, or one of the smartest ultimates in the group, he comes to realize just how helpful he is to everybody else. Those other people are ultimates in fact. That means a lot to him, I'd like to believe. By the end, he goes from a willing sheep to a beautiful leader. Next is Hajime Hinata, which is when they start alliterating the names of the mainline main characters. Very cool. While generic on the surface, it's actually teased to us, and him, that he has a talent unlike Makoto. Because of this, he's slightly similar to Damon in the way that he's like an outsider, but by the first chapter, he's made friends with many of the characters within the group. Once it's revealed he lacks a talent late game by Nagito, all his insecurity hits him like a truck, being there from the beginning, but hidden behind a certain standard. He then comes to embrace who he is, going from a temporarily willing sheep to a beautiful leader. Third is Komaru Naegi. She's not part of the mainline 3, so she isn't alliterated. Being Makoto's little sister, she relies on her big brother when left in a Monokuma-filled Towa City, struggling to fight for herself until Toko Fukawa comes to help. Through twists and turns, Komaru realizes that the only thing keeping her from being a capable fighter and leader is herself, causing her to go from a willing sheep to a beautiful leader. Now we have Shoichi Saihara. He's the ultimate detective, being the second we've seen. However, he isn't nearly as capable up front as his previous counterpart. Much like Komaru, the thing keeping him from being helpful is himself. He's afraid of failure and is overtaken by an image of himself instead of who he really is, which he learns to overcome as he realizes his skills are appreciated by the clearly capable people around him. He very dramatically and badassly goes from a willing sheep to a... What am I saying? It's so obvious that they're all the same. Now, let's discuss Damon. Damon Maitsu, not alliterate, this absolute lad begins arrogant towards others, finding everyone else weird like Hajime. However, unlike Hajime, who must come out of his shell to accept those around him, Damon spends majority of his time criticizing others in the prologue and suppressing his own opinions during the first chapter. The only people leaving their comfort zones are the others, trying to include him and Eva Tsunaka, who happens to be the first killer. She murdered the guy who primarily didn't like them both. Now, Damon is associated with the first murder and is kind of a dick. He believes himself to be a leader who is unimaginably valuable, yet seems to not be liked by the others as much as you'd think. For every compliment the first 4 receive, Damon is silently judging the others, being told that he's untrustworthy, mean, or self-centered. Honestly, it's justified too. He's the most flawed protagonist, with that characters always needing to tell us how much potential he has. However, within the first true class trial, we see Damon have elements of pathos, otherwise known as emotional appeal and debate. He shows emotional intelligence, awareness, and consideration with Diane, with a pathos route even being in the prologue's true class trial. I believe Damon's development will be about reaching the same ending as the other protagonists, but with a completely different beginning, path, goal, and focus. He might be at the same level, but he'll be focused on different things he achieved, right? Instead of achieving confidence, he would have achieved confidence in others. He needs to learn to raise others up instead of raising himself up all the time. That's the difference between him and the other 4. It's nice to see that he doesn't blindly trust others like the first 4. Instead, he needs to learn to trust others, but not to a naive degree. So I've probably made my point on his unique development clear, right? The best part is, this is just what I think should happen. I honestly think I'll be wrong because of the next thing. Before I yap, watch these two zingers. Unexpected, right? Now imagine this with context! Even more unexpected. One thing Eden's Garden loves to do is to be unpredictable. Like I said, literally everything 16-year-old me said about this game was wrong. The two most important characters in my eyes ended up dropping dead first. Disappointing, sad, but awesome! That's what I want. Anyway. You get my point. If the game loves to subvert expectations, then it's only natural that the main character of it would as well. That clip I just showed is the best example. He hates the girl who he not only helped, but who stood up to the challenge and poured her heart out. Now, will it be out of envy or disagreement? See, right there. That's the next expectation forming in your mind. And soon enough, it'll be subverted. This keeps you on your toes and is so different to anything before. The other four are, while annoying, pretty good-hearted guys. They have hearts of gold even. And while I'm sure Damon does too, his gold still has a lot of rocks that need to be smelted off before we can do anything with it. We need a lot of heat and space to work with in order to let that heart shine, right? Right? I think so. Despite his hatred for Diane's actions, which her voice actor commented on my last video and he still helped her in that first clip. He used emotion in both timelines. Anyway, I think that's my main reasoning there. I honestly can't think of many other examples, since it's only been a chapter and a half. Let's wait and see, guys. Okay, so this is gonna feel like a little bit of a backtrack, but sometimes it's good to be predictable. It's good to be similar, and that's because not everything is about being different. Sometimes, just sometimes, it's about taking the good parts and throwing away the bad. I believe this is what Damon does best. You thought I'd praise only how different he is? No! Now, we're going to discuss what's good about him, yet expected. This primarily manifests in how the layers of his character are shown. Danganronpa is usually pretty good at making their characters layered and likable. Sometimes it's forced, but their protagonists don't really have any bad apples in this field. While I think Damon breaks a lot of the bad habits, he takes this and rolls with it still. Of course, he'd be sad that, like usual, someone close to him died within the first chapter. However, the person furthest from him also died. His closest companion and furthest foil both died almost immediately, creating an unexpected twist in the storyline, but also bringing humanity to our otherwise closed-off protagonist. Nagito didn't die in Danganronpa 2, Byakuya didn't die in Danganronpa 1, and Kokichi wasn't the murderer in Danganronpa 3. Despite being the main character, he's closed off. This is because he not only lies to others but himself. There are so many layers to what could originally seem like unintentional quirks and parts of his character, such as the fact that he seems both rude to others and in his own mind. That's only because he's lying to himself. That's what I expect, but it could still be subverted, and that's beautiful. I like that Eva's death, and even Wolfgang's death, affected him. I like that he felt bad after he ruined Kai's originally excited mood, which is what I hope you didn't do to me at the start of this video. I like that he was willing to help Ingrid with washing, and I don't know. I think that's a pretty good list of things, to be honest. He's not going to be based on a single trait. He's more than just a cold guy, a logical guy, or a debater. He's also Damon Maitsu. And he might be more emotional than you. Eden's Garden won't just have an arc of Damon learning to bring others up, but to bring himself down a little bit. To be honest with himself, because he isn't. He was even confused as to when he was led by emotions with Diane. It's because he doesn't fully understand himself yet, and that's okay. That's how the story will go, and I'm excited for it. Instead of protagonists understanding the killing game, it's gonna be about Damon understanding himself. Except it could just be subverted and it doesn't actually go. Is it weird to talk about the circumstances and setting of a game when the video is about a character? Yes? Oh well. I'm discussing the circumstances of Damon because it helps him to shine. This is where we can bring up that lawyer guy. You know, Wolfgang Akide? Yeah, him. Like I mentioned before, having foils and people who are close to him allow his 3D character writing to really shine. The fact that the two most important people to his character died right away created an amazing opportunity for him to develop, and there's much more that falls into this equation. 3 foils that all have key similarities to Damon, helping those specific traits shine. Guess what? Kai Montego. I actually really like Kai, and the fact that he's Damon's roommate is bonkers. I feel like the fashionistas are taking the roles of Eva and Wolfgang, with Kai and Diane being integral to Damon's future development. Having to sleep every night with somebody that is effectively your opposite on many degrees is a hard circumstance that can definitely bring out a side of you. That's where Damon is within the story. Being able to see more sides of him is very good for Damon, and like I said, helps much more of him shine overall. Don't forget their similarities though. They aren't full opposites like I might have led you to believe. If I said that they were both selfish, would you agree? If you didn't, then you're experiencing the good side of comparison. Kai's existence makes you realize that Damon is actually a pretty chill guy. Without Kai, you might find him to be selfish, but somebody like Kai is an actually selfish person. Damon may be egotistical or self-centered, but then compare him to Kai. Yeah. He's selfish because he's so weak, and he knows that Damon is the opposite, which allows them to be opposites, but only because of a technical similarity. They both have more self-interested exteriors to them. Wolfgang, as I discussed in my previous video on this game, is focused on everybody else, while Damon is self-interested. However, they fall onto opposite sides of being logical-minded. Those are the opposite sides, much like how Damon and Kai are on opposite sides of self-interested and more egotistical behavior. We wouldn't have seen Damon's suspicion if it weren't for Wolfgang's trust. Now, since that one was much easier to describe, let's go to the third trait and character. Now let's talk about Diane, the new Wolfgang. Unlike Wolfgang and Kai, who are opposites with key similarities to help show this foiling, Diane is a little harder to figure out, but it's still there. She is a leader, much like Damon, but thinks about emotions first and foremost. At least she's trying to be a leader, rather than Damon's logical thought processes. This has already made clear strides in Damon's representation and development, with that scene of him pushing against the suspicion of Diane solely due to emotion, confusing him. However, it helps him grow, and with the statement of hatred at the end of chapter 1, this rivalry is clear. So why? Why does Damon evolve through semi-foiling? Well, it's much like his talent, debating. To debate, you must fight for the opposite or a different side of a topic. However, you need to be on that same topic in order to do so. I believe Damon's character parallels the concept of debating, which is very smart. Damon can only grow and shine by opposing others' beliefs and traits on topics that match with his, such as self-interest, lack of trust in others, and logical thinking. These things wouldn't shine without the same foundation being brought in a different direction, just like a debate. Sometimes I really get in the writing scripts. Goes crazy, huh? I think I'll be recording this script like 40 minutes after typing this up, so hi Recording T. You're saying hi to yourself, what a loser. In reality, I recorded this like 2 hours later, but anyway. I'll be making more content on this game, and I hope you've learned why I love Damon Maitsu as a protagonist. I went insane at times making this, and while I could have discussed animals, I didn't. Oh well. Like, subscribe, and check out my music. Peace!